Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre from TeddyBaldassarre.com, and in this video, we're looking at a brand new watch from Mido, familiar collection, but new variants for the model family. We have the Mido TV Big Date, now in titanium. So if you're new to this channel, this is where we cover watches available for purchase on our website, TeddyBaldassarre.com, as an authorized dealer. In this video, I'm gonna be going through all the details about this watch, everything you need to know, final considerations at the end, but also throughout the video, if you have further questions or are looking to get this watch is exclusively available on TeddyBaldassarre.com for a period of time here for several months. So if you wanna check this out, link will be in the description down below. Without further ado, let's jump into the video and take a closer look at this watch. So today we're looking at the latest iteration of one of Mido's most compelling models, their multi-fort TV Big Date. Now, I've been a fan of this design for some time since it was released a couple of years ago with a vibe that calls back to some of the brand's most distinctive watches of the 1970s. While Mido is something of an insider's brand here in the States, the TV Big Date offers some of the best finishing in its price tier, combined with a highly competent movement and a rarely seen complication that offers a higher horology twist. First established in Switzerland in 1918, Mido has a deep back catalog of striking designs, including the rounded square TV style case that calls back to their 1973 multi-star. The TV case was revived in 2023 with the launch of the multi-fort TV Big Date in steel. The multi-fort name goes back to the 1930s, positioned as one of the first automatic watches with anti-magnetic properties that were also water and shock resistant. Now they've upped the ante with their new grade 2 full titanium version, which brings the strength and lightweight of the metal to an already attractive lineup. The titanium version offers 30% weight savings over its steel counterpart while retaining the sporty demeanor and go-anywhere capability that made it a hit with collectors. Upon closer inspection of this case, you have a diameter of 40 millimeters, excluding the crown guards, a relatively tidy case height of 11.48 millimeters, and a trim lug-to-lug of 46.7 millimeters, making for an easy wear on most average size wrists. Now, if you do extend to the broader point of that central end link, it will go beyond that 46.7 millimeters. So I would say this wears closer to around a 47.5 to 48 millimeters on that lug-to-lug measurement. So still very wearable, wears like a pretty true 40 millimeter across wrist. The TV style was big in the 70s, and Mido leans into the aesthetic here for a delightful retro appearance that also offers a bit of a Patek sports watch feel, especially with the pronounced bezel. The grade 2 titanium case features a tasteful blend of brushing and polishing, and that raised bezel gets special attention with vertical brush face and polish on the sloping sides. The bezel also features subtle outward protrusions at 12 and 6, along with a small inset circle at 12 for added visual interest, further distinguishing the multi-fort TV's design language. A flat sapphire crystal offers substantial anti-reflective coating on both sides for a clear view of the intriguing dial details beneath. The sizable screw-down crown is signed, polished, and prominently guarded on both sides, adding to the sporty personality of the watch while aiding in the 100 meters of water resistance rating. The screwed-in caseback also helps in that regard and features a display window offering a view of the ETA base caliber 80 movement on the inside. More on that later. The overarching look is in line with the integrated sports watch trend that we've really seen on the rage the past several years, but the multi-fort TV isn't actually integrated, as it actually has standard lug width of 22 millimeters. The new titanium version comes standard on a bracelet, also in grade 2 titanium, and gets an H-link configuration, a retro touch that recalls back to the era in which this one was plucked from. The H-links get a brush finish, while the center links feature some bright work with their full polish, and if you'd like to refresh your style, the bracelet has built-in quick-release spars for easy swapping. Closure comes via a signed milled butterfly clasp, always a classy touch, but it does come at a cost of fine-tuning the fit with no capacity for micro-adjustment. Still, this is a bracelet whose finishing is a cut above others in this price segment. Now, this is getting to a genre of watch where there are some great bracelets out there. Think something like Christopher Ward with their 12. But I think this is nice in terms of where it's positioned amongst the broader landscape of watches of this style. The bracelet is also easy to adjust using pins. Pins in a titanium watch is pretty standard. You'll see this with the likes of Grand Seiko. Part of the reason behind that is for the ease of adjustment and the challenges that can come with stripping a screw, and this is sometimes seen as the better approach. But again, the 22mm lug width and quick release spring bars offer a plethora of options for strap experimentation, either with Mido's own offerings or something of your own choosing. Moving on to the dial, the element that stands out the most is clearly the big date complication. It's in the name, right? But seriously, this is something you just don't see in the majority of watches, and when you do, it's typically associated with higher tier brands affiliated with Glashütte watchmaking in Germany. The date display under 12 is impossible to miss, and this uncommon execution utilizes two separate apertures, one for each numeral, each featuring a dedicated disc with very legible white on black printing. These discs overlap as the correct date is reached during the daily changeover, but the jump is much easier to see in action when manually setting the date. One thing that did happen in the early rollout of these models, there were some issues with the date getting stuck, but that has now been corrected and you are no longer seeing those issues, especially in the past year and a half. Tucking into the rest of the dial's details at the perimeter, you'll find a deep gray chapter ring printed with white minute markings. Perfectly complementing the gray tone of the titanium is the dial's finish, and I really love the way that this dial looks. It has this gradient sunbrushed effect in gray that lends an almost monochromatic tone to the proceedings. The majority of the dial gets some rather interesting textures as you move further inward, with a raised center surface that boasts horizontal striping reminiscent of the classic Nautilus. Strategically placed round and trapezoidal cutouts for the loomed hour markers offer some dimensionality along with the striped texture, which makes for some interesting shadow play depending on the lighting conditions. The simple baton hour and minute hands sport a central crease that gives them a bit more presence, and Mido has wisely colored the hands gray instead of using a polished silver finish, making them stand out more legibly in the process. The hands get Superluminova as a treatment there, matching the hour indices, and while the glow isn't dive watch bright, it's certainly adequate for an everyday timepiece. Dial text is restrained, printed in black with the Mido wordmark and automatic below 12 and multi-fort above 6, giving the entire package a clean aesthetic and doing an excellent job of not detracting from that unique date display. Now we come to a movement that is exclusive to Mido and brands like Certina within the Swatch Group, but not going to be available to all the brands within the Swatch Group. This is the ETA C07.651, and it falls into what Mido calls the Caliber 80 family, a reference to its extended power reserve of 80 hours. So this specific version of the movement is going to have that big date complication, but also going to have a higher tier grade of the C07 series. There's the .11 that is used in some watches from Tissot. This is going to be an elevated position with the .6 series. Now, I've expressed this many times, but one of the reasons for that extended power reserve is the 21,600 vibrations per hour or 3 Hertz beat rate, a reduction from the base caliber's 4 Hertz rate. This variant of the C07 also utilizes a Nivercron balance spring to protect against magnetism while adding the quick change big date mechanism at the 12 o'clock position. The movement hacks and hand winds, and anecdotally, the factory is going to regulate these quite well. I find these running in the single digits very consistently. While these movements aren't going to be renowned for their dazzling decoration, there are some small embellishments, very much going to be more to that standard industrialized finish. So now let's unpack, talk a little bit more about this Mido TV Big Date Titanium. So some positives, negatives, things to consider before purchasing. So let's start with some of the cons maybe for this piece. One would be the lack of micro adjustment. That will be a point that comes with the butterfly clasp arrangement. It's a nice bracelet, but for those that swell up dramatically throughout the day, this could be a little bit more difficult to get a precise fit, especially in those warm summer months. Another thing is this is borderline in the adjacent category of an homage. It feels very much like a Aquanaut when you have this one on the wrist, which might be another reason why you like it. It has enough differentiating type of ideas with the big date. I think that definitely helps in the presentation. That is something that you typically don't see. And then in addition to that, I think it's just become a little bit busy in this integrated crowd. I don't think this is something that people are looking for at this moment, which is more and more integrated sports watches. But on the flip side, that's where we come to the positives of this watch. Let's look a little bit more about the landscape of integrated steel sports watches at this price segment. There are some titanium options, but there's not a lot, at least in relation to how many stainless steel versions there are. You could talk about the Christopher Ward 12. Citizen has dabbled in this, but for a mainstream player, this is something that's not effectively been pulled off quite a lot, especially under $2,000. In addition to that, I think this watch is actually very attractive. I've always liked this TV style case. It's got some quirks to it. And with the big date, you have those two ideas that are brought together, and it works well in practice. This is my favorite dial configuration yet as well. I like this gray tone. When you looked at some of the press imagery of this, I didn't think much of it. I wasn't that big of a fan, but in person, much better. Has a mild sheen, not over the top, just enough to combine with the hue of the case to really feel cohesive altogether. As I mentioned, the big day complication was a challenge at the beginning with some issues, but they have gotten past that. We sell this brand all the time, and we have not been seeing any consistent issues whatsoever, been able to remedy a lot of that. Getting 80-hour power reserve, so really gonna stack up well against the competition in the price range, elevated version of the C07 series of calibers, and then also a really nice case size for a variety of wrists out there with 100 meters of water resistance. So the Mido TV Big Date, in the sea of all of these integrated steel sports watches, I think has an interesting lane. It has the ability to have some quirks in the process with the Big Date complication, falling in line with a different genre of the integrated steel sports watch, not to the same degree of everybody going after the Royal Oak DNA. This is a little bit of a different spin on the matter, but also referring back to the 1970s of Mido. So if you want more of a sleeper hit, added quirks in the process, but still getting some remarkable value in this price tier with a watch with some character, the Mido TV Big Date, now in titanium, is probably the most compelling watch yet from the collection by a far margin. All right, guys, that's all we have for this one. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Really do appreciate that. That does help out the channel. I don't just say that at the end of the videos, so really do thank you for doing so. Also, if you are in the market for this watch, it is available on TeddyBaldassarre.com. Every purchase from TeddyBaldassarre.com comes with quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. It allows us to keep doing what we're doing here, and we love what we do. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.